Brandy seems especially passionate is because she and Kobe go way back. She was his high school prom date. How difficult has this been for you hearing all this?
This is very sad for me because I have had many moments with Kobe, and I just think he's a great guy.
And comedian Jamie Foxx had this wish for Kobe.
Kobe's a young man, and I want him to grow old and prosper and have a good relationship with his wife.
But first, Bryant must face a trial on charges he sexually assaulted a 19-year-old woman in this Vail, Colorado hotel. Extra first reported just 3 days after Kobe's emotional news conference, he took wife Vanessa on a multi-million-dollar shopping spree. One of the stops, this jewelry store to the stars, where Kobe bought Vanessa an 8-carat ring worth $4 million.
This ring is a gift of love. It just happens to be a little bit big one, but it's big love.
In an extra exclusive, Ann Watu and Rafi of Raffinity Jewelers are talking about Kobe's lavish shopping trip for the very first time.
They're spending time together, they're holding hands, they're, hey baby, look at this, look at that, into the jewelry, just having a good time.
We also went to the set of Boomtown, where Kobe was on the minds of stars Vanessa Williams and Donnie Wahlberg.
I lived life on the road for a long time, and I think it's sad.
I know what it's like.
Vanessa is married to Kobe's teammate, Rick Fox. She promises Bryant will get past this.
He's a young kid, and, everyone goes through some crap in their life.
As Kobe prepares to fight for his future, it's clear he can count on the support of his Hollywood teammates and friends.
Today, a judge issued a gag order on attorneys, witnesses, and others involved in the sexual assault case.
Still to come, questions surface about Kobe Bryant's accuser.
I came home from class on that day, and I saw a stretcher outside her room.
New information in the scandal, next.
And now the latest in the Kobe Bryant case. It was 1 week ago tonight that prosecutors in Colorado made their dramatic announcement that NBA All-Star Bryant is being charged with sexual assault. In the 7 days since, Bryant and his accusers have seen their pasts and their characters called into question. But the most painful part for both may well lie ahead. Here's Dawn Fratangelo.
The defendant was charged with 1 count of sexual assault, a Class 3 felony.
The Kobe Bryant case moved away from the drama of last week's dueling press conferences.
I didn't force her to do anything.
To where it will likely end, a Colorado court. Today, motions were filed to unseal police records of 911 calls made from the home of the alleged victim this past May, and also any 911 calls made in the past 2 years from the posh resort where the alleged rape took place. And a ruling today. Cameras will be allowed in the court during Bryant's August 6th arraignment. This after a gag order was issued yesterday that's done little to stop a lot of talk, mostly about Bryant's accuser, some of it coming from the campus of the University of Northern Colorado. This is the dormitory where Kobe Bryant's accuser lived, and stories about how she spent her freshman year here are trickling out. Rich Frederick's dorm room was just down the hall.
She was very nice to everybody. She was never mean to anybody. She was a partier.
When you say she was a partier, what do you mean by that? How much did she party in your estimation?
Anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week, just bounce around looking for the parties, go house to house, see what's going on that night.
He also remembers the events of February 25th, when an ambulance arrived at the young woman's dorm.
I came home from class on that day, and I saw a stretcher outside her room. I had no idea what was going on. And next thing I know, I just saw a stretcher pulling away, and I saw blonde hair.
She was taken to this hospital. Campus police won't say exactly what happened, but the police chief told Dateline the young woman was taken into protective custody, something Dunny said when someone is a danger to themselves or others. She returned to campus a few days later. Scott Hodson, another university freshman, says he briefly dated the young woman.
She was really friendly, kind of really sociable person. She was fun to talk to quite a bit.
He also says she was surprisingly candid about some of her adventures, like her trip to Texas, where she unsuccessfully auditioned for the television show American Idol.
I don't think the singing part went real well. I mean, she waited in line and went through her little turn and everything, but when she came back, her biggest story was about sleeping with a guy who looked like Justin Timberlake.
Tales told out of school that would have remained on the college campus. But when someone accuses a celebrity of rape, stories about their private life
often become part of the public conversation. And that's not even the worst of it for Bryant's accuser.
Tabloid newspapers showing her photo, websites publishing personal details, and a Los Angeles radio talk show host even naming her on the air.
You gotta be kidding me. I'm the big bad monster. All the phone lines are ringing. I have the 19-year-old.
But what people are hearing about the young woman's reputation may not be admissible in court under the rape shield laws, according to psychologist Patricia Saunders, a trauma specialist.
There have been reports that Kobe Bryant's accuser was a party girl on campus, bragged about sexual conquests. Should these reports matter? Should this matter in a case of rape?
I think it's disgusting that it does matter to some people in the public. Okay? Legally and psychologically, it's irrelevant. What this young woman does in her private life has nothing to do with an allegation of rape. Okay? One thing has nothing to do with the other. It's an even deeper invasion of her privacy to bring it up.
I'm so sorry.
Meanwhile, since his admission of adultery last week, Kobe Bryant has remained out of sight. But he's not being spared the spotlight. Nearly every night, from local to cable to network news, his name is linked with the sexual assault charge against him. And while his image as a star athlete has graced the cover of Sports Illustrated many times, this week it features his mugshot and a cover story in which unnamed sources call him cold and calculating and even abrasive in the way he treats people. The difference, though, most of those talking about Kobe Bryant are anonymous. Those revealing details about his accuser are not.
Think of it in terms of the establishment versus the ordinary citizen. And here's this small-town girl, right, where her friends are trashing her, right, where her life will never, ever be the same. And here's this wealthy individual, even if he's innocent, protected by people who have more than vested interest in keeping their jobs and protecting Kobe.
And today's decision to allow cameras in the courtroom is certain to generate even more interest about this small community, where normally the focus is on simple things like the weekly softball game.
I think that the rose-colored glasses are off. You think that the media frenzy can only happen in bigger towns like out in California or New York.
This small, middle-class community that sits in the shadow of the Vail ski resort is used to crowds. But not these kinds of crowds and the attention they bring with them.
You think here, this little town that has 2,000 to 3,000 people in one stoplight is going to get something like this, and it's like, wait a minute, look at what it's done. You can't go any place without it having affected somebody.
That's all for this edition of Dateline Friday. We'll see you again for Dateline.